Hey, superstars. It's your pal Danny with a planetary service announcement that's also doubling as this week's Inside Skinny. So it's the Inside Skinny for the week of August 8th of our Lionsgate portal, which, holy wow, was that intense. So for folks who are tuning into this on YouTube, on BitChute, on whatnot, know that the Inside Skinny is something new that I'm adding to my newsletter offering. So Inside Skinnies are normally going to be written newsletters, and this week was, oh my God, cosmic overwhelm. And it's still an unfolding exploration for me. So we're doing it this way this week. As you're into my Inside Skinnies, I highly, highly, highly recommend signing up for my newsletter. Okay, let's get into it. So this week's Inside Skinny is inspired by this really illuminating parallel that I made yesterday. To get into it, I'm going to go back for the final time to the story about me getting kicked out of improv. Now, my Lionsgate portal was all about letting go. I let go of my lizard roommate panties because I got a sense that he really wanted to be outside. It's letting go of a lot of stories, a lot of old patterns and fears and all that nonsense. And today happens to be the Aquarius full moon, which is extra amplified for me of the Aquarius sun, Aquarius North Node. And so again, in the interest of letting go, as well as establishing this for the public record, this is the last time I'm going to be speaking about the incident wherein I got kicked out of improv class for saying ballet is faggy in the middle of a sketch while playing a bodybuilder making a smoothie. Okay, so as you followed in my last Inside Skinny, the whole thing kind of exploded and escalated. I wasn't willing to apologize to the administrator who was not present for the quote unquote incident, but told me that I was in violation of their policies and was going to be on probation and needed to make it a public apology, even though he wasn't really interested in parsing out what had happened. Okay. And my response, for those of you who emailed me to see the email exchange, you know how that went. If you're not privy to it and you're curious, email me. I'm happy to send it your way. So what happened after that exchange was it escalated yet again to the owner of the whole school. Now, this is where it gets really interesting. So the owner of the school messaged me back, not with the prorated refund, not with the apology, not with the we've made a huge mistake, but saying, oh, what you said actually wasn't a problem at all. And the multiple people who we claimed were hurt by it don't exist. And that never happened. No apology there for that fiction, lie. But the problem was in the conversation you had with the student who was aggrieved after class, and you were dismissive and inappropriate. So keep in mind, no one who's berating me for this was privy to this conversation, the sudden switch up in what the problem actually was. And no one bothered to this day, which is 2.5 weeks later, has bothered to ask me about it. So just to get the record straight, in terms of how I was being accused of being dismissive and inappropriate, was when this woman came to me completely unhinged and upset, taking it very personally and saying, well, I would never say that. I would never say the N-word. People are getting killed, et cetera, et cetera. I said, I totally hear you. I hear that you would never say these things. I respect that. You don't have to say these things. That's the beauty of improv class. However, I'm going to say whatever I want to. And because I can see that this is affecting you in a really deep way, and I can see how much courage it took for you to come speak to me about this, which I really honor and have compassion for, I want you to know that my door is always open and I always welcome these conversations. And given that we are continuing to take classes together and that it's possible that I will trigger you again, I want you to know that I always welcome you coming to me and talking to me. And that was when she stormed away and I guess tattled on me. So this was the conversation that has now been redubbed as dismissive and inappropriate without anyone inquiring. So the big lingering question is, well, like, why was I pinpointed? Like, why were they trying so hard to get me out of class? Great question. So if anyone here has ever taken a class with me, a dance class, an improv class, like whatever it may be, I am very Aquarian. I'm extremely attuned to the larger group energetics, and I'm always acting in service to the larger group. So if there's someone who I see who's not really participating, I'll invite them into a sketch. I'm the first one to break into applause after a sketch, or, to speak encouraging words. When I see the teacher is speaking to the class and is looking for feedback, I'm always making eye contact. I'm always giving the thumbs up. I'm always nodding. I will speak and say, yes, totally understood, right? I'm always doing my best to help amplify the efficacy of the class environment and the group environment, and to be as encouraging and encourage as much participation as possible, right? So I'm really an asset to any class that I'm in. And any improv teacher who's had me in their class knows this. Alas, they didn't consult with any of my improv teachers. The people who were emailing me and kicking me out were people who had never taught a class with me and who weren't privy to this. Okay, so why was the president of the school so keen to get me out? We'll come back to that in just a second. So this has been the lingering question, right? And I've had pushback from friends in my life of like, yeah, Danny, it just sounds like another instance of you opening your big mouth and saying whatever you want to say without, being mindful of the consequences, and then victimizing yourself to it when people are pissed off. And I'm like, okay, fair enough. Definitely something for me to look at. I, of course, am a work in progress. I am still in the process of mastering reactivity, or, sensitivity, all of those things. I own that. And there's something about the context of like, well, this is an improv class. Like, as a journalist who's been censored too many times to count, it was the last place I had to speak freely, which is being taken away, right? But so this happened yesterday, which kind of it helped it all click in for me, which is actually really beautiful, given that today is the full moon in Aquarius, and I get to put this to rest now that I have this other piece for myself to see where I can take responsibility and where I co-created this situation. So last night I was hanging out with a friend, and he mentioned that 10,000 Ways, which is the Japanese spa in town that also has this really yummy Japanese restaurant, had rescinded their rule wherein for the past year, probably more than a year, they weren't allowing anyone into the spa who did not have proof of certain experimental medical interventions. And they weren't allowing anyone without those same medical interventions into the restaurant. They were allowing them to sit on the patio in a sort of like segregated apartheid back of the bus situation. As you can imagine, I'm not really a fan of this, especially given that the state of New Mexico, Santa Fe County, and the city of Santa Fe have never mandated this experimental medical intervention. And for any business or state, city, county to do so is a violation of the Nuremberg Code, is a violation of our human rights. I mean, I could go on and on about the egregiousness of any sort of mandate. On top of that, whether I have had a medical intervention or not, I'm not going to share that private information with the proprietor of a business. I'm not going to do that. That's private information between me and my medical provider. So I was just a hard no the whole way. So my friend announces to me, so they've done away with their mandate. Should we go? And I was completely offended. I was like, are you kidding? Like, I would never give them my business. That's so gross. Like, I wouldn't honor them by spending my dollars there after they just trampled my and our collective human rights for the past year and a half. And he said, well, I get that, but like, I really genuinely miss their food, and I really genuinely miss soaking there. And to be perfectly honest, like, I was a little judgy, and I was like, yeah, I honor integrity over like what my tongue wants, like a little bit snotty. And then I realized, oh shit, I did the same thing. I dropped my integrity, which is why this whole thing happened with improv class. So I was remembering that in winter of 2020, I had signed up. I'd already taken 2 classes with them, and I'd signed up for a special workshop. And I received an email from the same owner of the school that told me that I was inappropriate and dismissive in the conversation to which he was never privy, and no one to this day has asked me about. I got an email from him saying, we're requiring proof of medical interventions for everyone in the class tomorrow. So you're going to need to bring that for us to allow you in. And I said, exactly what I just said. That's private information between me and my medical provider, and I'm never going to do that. I'm not really on board with apartheid, so that's not going to happen. And then it escalated from there. Well, then you're not allowed to come. And then it was me trying to get my money back. And it was like not a super pleasant exchange. And ultimately, when I was invited back into class after they rescinded that egregious Nuremberg Code violating rule for themselves, I rewrote it as like, oh, well, this is like the other side, right? As far as being engineered, extending me an olive branch. And I really want to be back in improv class. So I am going to, consider it a diplomatic mission, if you will, where like I'm going to go in and I'm going to obliterate any ideas of some sort of divide and just feel into our shared humanity and take this as a sort of mea culpa from the improv school and go back to participating. And that is where I completely dropped my integrity and did exactly what I shamed my friend for doing or wanting to do with 10,000 Waves, where I compromised my integrity in terms of giving money to a pro-apartheid, human rights violating business because I wanted to do improv. So all of this is to say on this end, and putting closure to this is that I see where I co-created this. I see where I drew this experience into my life by pretending that I was dealing with people who honored shared humanity, who were with integrity. And for me, betraying my own integrity by giving them my money. And where I dropped the ball in judging my friend, for wanting to go back. Like, we all get to play this the way we want to play it. And who am I to judge him for doing exactly what I just did, right? So these are all my pieces. The silver lining on the flip side of it, and I told them this when they were kicking me out, is I was saying, I'm like, look, all the horrible ways you're handling this aside and the one-sided nature and that you're kowtowing to the indoctrinated hysteria of someone who doesn't even want to be in class, but is only there because she's sleeping with one of the teachers who put her in class to fill out a class when you didn't have enough attendance. This is a terrible business model. Like, that was my thing, is like, I'm a returning student who's referred you students, and you're not allowing me to feel safe or welcome in this community. You're not giving me the benefits of any doubt. Like, you're going to sink your business if this is your business model. So cut to Monday, 2 classes later, the woman who created all this drama, who got her feelings hurt, she skipped the last class and she showed up for this class high on some sort of psychedelic and proved to be extremely disruptive before running out of class in the middle of the scene. So, no harm, no foul, but it's just really interesting, the karma of it, of like, you're choosing to remove who's actually a good student, probably for some sort of underlying ideological beef, given what had happened when I was uninvited for the medical intervention conversation. And now the class is crumbling, and I've heard that 2 more people aren't going back next week. So everything evens out on some dimension. So this concludes this annoying AF improv drama and the end of this pattern of me compromising my integrity and doing business with, I don't want to say Nazis because I don't want to overstate it, but with people who are down with human rights violations. Lesson learned, lesson integrating. And this concludes this week's video Inside Skinny. Thanks for paying attention. Thanks for remembering that every word matters, as does every dollar, and that you are omniscopic amazingness. Have a rockin' day. Mwah.